Joining me now is a UFC light heavyweight fighter who debuts against Devin Clark this weekend in Brooklyn, New York at UFC 223. It is Mike Rodriguez back on the program. Mike, how are you?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Just living the dream.
Excellent. Has it sunk in? I know you got signed to the UFC quite a while ago. You were on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series last summer. You got the knockout win, got the contract, and we haven't seen you since then. It's been a little quiet. But now that we're here, it's fight week. We're in the middle of it. I'm sure the weight cut has begun, well underway. Other fight week festivities, things like that. The fight is getting real close. Has it all sunk in that, hey, you're a UFC fighter?
Yeah, it actually just sunk in a couple minutes ago when I got my kit. It dawned on me. I'm like, oh snap, this is real life now.
You got your Reebok kit like literally 10 minutes ago or something?
Yep, exactly 10 minutes ago.
Have you tried on all the gear? Does it fit? Does it look good? Do you like it?
Everything fits wonderful. I love it.
Very good. Why did it take so long for you to get this fight? Because I know your Dana White Contender Series fight was way back in August, and it's already April now of the following year. Did you want to sit out this long?
Well, I was injured. I messed up my knee on the Contender Series. I hurt. I cracked my kneecap, my cartilage, and so that's why I was out for a while. And it just, I don't know, they just didn't book me with anything.
How long how long did you have to sit on the sidelines to recover your knee?
It was in line. It was only 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, so you've been 100% for the better part of probably 6 months or so?
Absolutely.
And then I guess so you sat out for a little bit for the first 2 months or so after that fight, and then since then it's all just been sort of quiet. You haven't heard much. You've just been waiting and hoping.
Yeah, just sitting there, just waiting, just seeing where they place me at.
Has that been frustrating? Because, I'm sure you would have wanted to fight maybe even back in, say, November, December.
At first, it was. I was getting a little antsy and a little, I was like, oh, man, because I was watching all the other Contender Series guys getting all booked. And Joe just told me, dude, your time's going to come. You already signed. It's not like they're going to, psych, well, you're not signing you. You already signed. Just train and focus on getting better, and when your time comes, you'll be ready. And that's exactly what I did. But at first, I was getting a little antsy.
Do you think maybe this was a blessing in disguise? Because during this time, you've been able to get better. And I know a lot of fighters say that when you're training for a specific opponent, when you're in fight camp, you're not really getting better. When you don't have an opponent, that's when you can really focus on your skills and drill and get better. Do you think this has, in hindsight, has worked out quite well because you'll be a much better fighter than had you made your debut 2 months after the Contender Series?
I do agree with that. To some degree, I feel like I get better, all around. Whether I'm in camp, out of camp, I just get better all around. Because when you are training for a specific person and everything, you're working on things, you're brushing up on a lot of shit that you didn't know before. So you're still getting better. You know what I mean? It's not like you're not. So, but I'm glad I took it now than took it right after the Contender Series, because I'm 20 times better fighter than I was fighting on the Contender Series.
But this is the latest you'd want. You wouldn't want to wait any longer than April 7th.
This is perfect. This is the perfect time. I feel like there's all the stars aligned for this day to happen.
And it's also early enough in the year where you'll probably be able to have 2 more fights in 2018, if that's what you want. Are you looking to stay active right after? Yeah.
If I'm totally fine and come out of this fight unscathed, I'm looking forward to do it again. Yes.
What do you know about Devin Clark? What did you know who he was when you got the call? I know he's had a few fights, so maybe you've heard the name at the very least. And how much research have you done? What do you know about him? And what do you make of the matchup?
I know he's a wrestler. I've seen him wrestle I mean, I've seen him wrestle, and I've seen a couple of his fights. So, I just was like, it's like the same, sort of, kind of the same fight as the Jamel Jones, except he's more aggressive. So, it's an interesting matchup.
What's the weight cut like? And do you cut too much weight? If you're gonna ask me, I feel like you don't cut much weight. Is that accurate, or am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. I'm the type of person, as soon as I change my diet, the weight just flies off me. Like, I wouldn't be able to hold the weight on. Like, even if I'm, like, out of camp, if I would just, let me just not eat like shit. Let me just eat a couple salads in here and there. My weight will just go down. It's just, I just have that type of body. But it would go down and plateau. And that's usually the time I will cut the sauna the rest of the way.
Interesting. What do you mind saying how much you weigh right now? We're less than 3 days out from Friday morning. We're recording this Tuesday night.
215.6.
Okay, so 10 pounds for a person your size really isn't that big of a deal at all.
No, not at all.
You're on a big card. UFC 223, of course, it just lost its main event, but it got a great replacement. Khabib, Max Holloway, terrific stuff. The co-main event between Yuan and Rose, obviously running it back will be very fun. We have a lot of good matchups on the card. It's probably the best card of the year so far. Is it nice being on such a big card for your debut? A lot of eyeballs you'll get. Is that something you sort of have looked forward to in a way?
It's one of those things it's nothing to me. It's like I could have been on, some rinky-dink card in the middle of nowhere. Like, I'm totally fine. It doesn't bother me none.
I'm curious though, because you're on such a big card, you are the second fight of the night, you're on the Fight Pass or early prelims. Some fighters don't like that, but I'm kind of thinking, like, are you an MMA fan? Of course you're a fighter, but not just because you're a fighter doesn't mean you watch every card. Do you typically watch a lot of the UFC cards that go on?
Oh, absolutely. I'm like I said numerous times before, I'm a fan as well as a competitor. Like, I love the sport. So yeah, I'm actually pumped to watch this fight too.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Because you're so early on, this will give you an opportunity to go back to the green room in the back, or maybe even somehow snag a cage side seat, depending on if the UFC says yes or no. And I would assume you're looking forward to being able to sit back after your fight and watch the rest of the card.
Yeah, I'm legit gonna sit down, kick my feet up, and enjoy the rest of the card after my fight.
Although the UFC doesn't typically let you guys grab a cage side seat, which I don't totally agree with, but maybe you can sneak your way in.
Yeah, no, I'll just hang out in the green room, just off my face and watch it back there, because I got to watch Joe fight.
Right,
That's
exactly. Yeah,
and I got to watch Calvin Kattar fight.
Right. Speaking of those two, is it nice being pretty close to home? I know it's like a 4.5 hour drive or so from Boston to Brooklyn. You're close. You don't need to hop on a 10-hour flight like Max Holloway just did. Is it nice making your debut pretty close to home?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's awesome because I have family here in New York too, so it's like my second home. Like, my mom was born out here, so everything, like, it's legit a second home.
And how cool is it having a guy like, as you mentioned, Joe Lozon on the card just a few fights after you? I assume, although you don't really train together, I would guess, correct if I'm wrong, but you're quite a bit bigger than Lozon, of course, but just being sort of aside him during the whole camp, sort of doing the weight cut at the same time, has that been beneficial for you? Yeah,
because the thing about Joe has such a big heart, and he's just a fucking man that, like, he puts all his attention on the fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, of course he has his own fight, and he's, like, looking out. But at the same time, like, he's watching my rounds. He's watching me grapple. He's watching my diet. Like, he's still tuned in on everything I'm doing, even though he has his own fight. Like, he knows, yeah, he's a fighter, but he's also a coach. So he doesn't neglect either job. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. One thing about the weight cut I wanted to go back to real quick. You mentioned that once you clean up your diet a little bit, the weight just goes off real quick. What's like one thing that you love eating when you're not, not in fight camp, but then you have to cut it out? Is there one thing that stands out among the rest that you just can't wait to sort of tuck into after this fight?
Oh man, I can't wait to cut into some Dominican food. Some like arroz con habichuelos, like fucking some guandules, something like that. I need to cut into something like that. I love Spanish food, so.
That's a cool answer. I mean, obviously, I don't really get that. Often it's like, I can't wait to have a burger, can't wait to have a pizza, so I like the uniqueness.
Yeah, because, like, my mom's cooking. It's the best, so I'm just, like, waiting for that.
That's awesome. Although, would you have to wait to go home for that, though? You can't go, right after the fight.
I could probably go out here. Since New York is heavily populated with Dominicans, I could probably find something out here. Not probably, I will find something out here.
But you haven't researched that quite yet. That'll, I guess, happen after the fight. You'll worry about that then?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Got to get your priorities in check.
Absolutely.
Speaking of odds, most betting websites, 5 Dimes included, has you as a very slight underdog. Real close, you're minus 105, so you're not even plus money, but Clark is minus 115. What do you make of that? Do you care? Is that any sort of motivation? Do you care about the odds?
You know what's the cool thing about this whole thing, about odds and betting and shit? I don't understand it, so I don't really care. I don't get it. I don't really know what's favors, what's odds. Like, if you would give me $100 and tell me to bet on the underdog or whatever, I'm like, I don't know who that is. Like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me none.
Great. One last pick I want to get from... Sorry, Go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's like any other thing. People have their fans of what they like. People like what they're going to like, and it is what it is.
No, for sure. One last pick I want to get to the co-main event, Rose Namajunas, Joanna Jacek, a lot closer odds-wise, and I think just in general, I think a lot of people think that's a real close rematch. Do you think Rose gets it done a second time, or does Joanna champion come back?
Nah, dude, I'm going with my girl, man, Joanna. I think she'll get her title back. She's gonna get her title back, and there will be a trilogy later on this year, I'm assuming.
Alrighty, well, I'm going to get a pick from you for your fight very soon, but one last thing before that. Light heavyweight generally is a fairly shallow division. I think most people would agree with that. There aren't tons of up-and-comers. It seems to be kind of top-heavy, but you making your debut, coming off the Contender series, big knockout win, there's a bit of buzz behind you. Do you think you can be sort of... I don't want to sort of go ahead of myself and act as if you're 5-0 in the UFC, but do you feel like you can sort of be that guy and make a few waves in this division?
That's my plan. I'm trying to get this whole division, trying to take it by storm, as they say.
Fair enough. Well, the most important prediction of them all, Mike Rodriguez, Devin Clark. I gotta get a pick.
I'm gonna finish him in the second round.
Knockout. Alrighty, well, Mike, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. Best of luck to you on Saturday night at UFC 223 in Brooklyn, New York. You're, of course, taking on Devin Clark in your debut. Last thing before we let you go, if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout out to, and also remind my audience where they can find you on social media, the floor is yours.
I always want to thank all my teammates, those on MMA, and all friends and family have been supporting me all the way through this glorious moment. And people can follow me at MRod MMA on Instagram and Twitter.